Hey everyone, my name's Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
Hello, everyone. I'm your content manager, Tia at Geek Vibes Nation. Very happy to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One day I will have a physical book to put up there, but I love that you always push that. Every time I watch the Video Addict with you and Dylan, I'm like, yes, make sure you put that on the forefront.
I mean, yeah, I feel like there's no such thing as a shameless plug. We're all hustling.
Exactly.
I don't have like a famous name or contact, so gotta do what you gotta do. But
Yeah.
I'm excited. We are talking Loki season 2. Oh my gosh. So before we started recording, I was mentioning that I had literally just finished the finale. Like I've been kind of like ever since Comic-Con, I've been playing catch up in like
Mhm.
work stuff and life stuff. So I've just now like got sit down and actually watch the full season and like emotionally wrecked.
Yes.
But what was some of your like first like what well to kick it off, like overall thoughts on the season?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So I like to always start any Loki discussion off by saying I'm a huge Loki fan, right? As much as I love 2008's Iron Man, I want to say that Tom Hiddleston as Loki himself was my kickoff for the MCU, why I was just so invested, especially that first Avengers movie. I mean, I'm going to be shameless and say I have two Loki tattoos, so I am in this, right? uh, that being said, I wasn't the biggest fan of season one, which I know is like almost blasphemous. I mean, listen, I got all the Tom Hiddleston Loki content I could. I wasn't feeling it as much, right? So I went into this season just like, all right, let's see where they go. I was so pleasantly surprised slash blown away. I was fortunate enough to get access to the first 4 episodes before they even came out on Disney Plus, and I could not wait for the fifth and sixth episode to come out because I thought it was just really well done. It felt like a very tight storyline. They had a goal, they ran to it. I thought everything about this season was structured really well, acted really well. And that ending, I was
Mhm.
Mike and I were talking about this yesterday is when I finished the season, and instantly I messaged Mike going, okay, when are we talking about this? Because I need to talk about this. So I really enjoyed it. I thought that I can't wait to rewatch it. I thought it had really great Loki content. Everyone else played a really great part. The suspense added well. There felt like there was actual consequences, and I obviously will get more into it, but yeah, my first initial reaction was this was great, and this is what I need to see from the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting how well, first of all, I completely agree. It, it's not that I didn't like Loki season 1. I thought it was a good introduction, but I also kind of agree that it didn't feel as like it definitely just felt like a setup to the main course. Like
Right.
this was really leading up to like the real this it, like season 1 was like the appetizer to like the holy shit amazing main course that you're like mwah. um
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I liked it a lot. I love when you can sort of expand characters, expand the world building. The world building was so staggering, and that's what kind of makes me mad when people um sort of out of hand just dismiss Marvel. It almost becomes sort of a dirty word lately of like,
Mhm.
oh, you like Marvel movies or shows and stuff. They're not real cinema.
uh,
Scorsese.
yeah. I was gonna say Scorsese, which is such a like, I mean, obviously everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. Martin Scorsese is a phenomenal filmmaker, but it's like just let people enjoy movies. I mean, it doesn't have to be cinema.
Right. It's funny because like we recorded a video attic yesterday, and I kind of had like two movies that I felt like really represented my sort of taste in like cinema, which is like we had Jean-Luc Godard's really classic French New Wave movie Contempt, and then we had a movie called Alien Outlaw. And I put these two movies up, and I'm like, this represents us as like the video addict and like the stuff that we kind of like. And it can be very classy. It can be a bona fide classic, but then it also can stand side by side with like Alien Outlaw, which is like stupid and fun, and it may not be for everybody. That's fine. But just to out of hand sort of dismiss something because it's populist entertainment, I think is very snobbish. And
Yes.
I get it. I know like Scorsese has earned the right to be an old man, shaking his fist at like populist stuff. But the thing is, like when he says like these are like theme park rides, I'm like, dude, your friends literally made movies that have theme rides, like
Yeah.
based on their movies. Like I don't know. Like
I, I know that's like a whole nother thing to like get into, because
yeah.
just every time you see someone like Scorsese say something and then now people agreeing saying yes, Marvel is trash, and I don't know, it can just be entertaining. I think people are very disappointed with what we've gotten after Endgame, and to a
Mm,
degree I can understand. I mean, before Endgame, especially after phase two, things felt a lot more concise. They felt as if it was actually moving towards something, whereas now we kind of really don't know what's happening. We don't know where the story is necessarily going. I think they're trying to get their footing, especially with new characters, new actors they're bringing in. They're trying to figure that all out. And certainly I think that there's been a few things that have not lived up to maybe the quality that we're used to with Marvel. But then if you just remember that this is just to entertain you, it's
yeah.
superhero stuff, just have some fun. There's some crazy stuff going on in the world. Let's just enjoy this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, again, I won't like get on my whole diatribe, but like I think it's interesting like how I feel like how sort of Marvel the movies are sort of, I don't know how I want to put this, like not evolving but sort of almost like how their trajectory of the movies versus the TV shows, which is of course is what we're talking about now. But like I mean, because I think like WandaVision is fucking perfect in every
Yeah.
way. um I think that again, Loki, as I'm assuming that this is going to be a self-contained, just 2 seasons. That's the
Yeah.
full. Yeah, and I mean, again, I like how when you have these very self-contained, maybe 1, 2 seasons. I think Gravity Falls is kind of the perfect example of like a beautifully structured 3 season series.
Yeah.
Like you have no filler, they know exactly where they're going, and to your point earlier, like this was so well planned out as just a self-contained two, you know, I was gonna say series. That's British. The 2 season series.
Mhm.
Um, I've been watching a lot of British TV shows, so pardon me. But um, yeah, no, I think, like I said, my initial kind of thing is like the world building is incredible. Like a lot of the sort of like time thing was a little, maybe it takes you a little while to really settle into all these really big concepts, but I think it does it kind of lays everything out in such a way where even if you still maybe don't understand all of it, it kind of does a really nice job of streamlining the bullet points. So, even if you're like somebody like me that's like sometimes a little like not like quick on the draw with some of that kind of stuff, I still felt like I got the cliff notes, I got the gist. And I think more importantly, though, is just this really beautiful story arc with Loki and like how he was in the movies, how he was just at the beginning of, you know, Loki season 1, and how he's really evolved as a character has been so cool to see. Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, if I can just jump in really quick, the Loki in the movies, right, is I guess what you would consider like the main timeline Loki. And we got to see his arc, his redemption, his realization. I mean, especially in Thor Ragnarok, where Thor and Loki have that conversation where Thor's like, you could be so much more. And we see Loki in Infinity War literally sacrifice himself for Thor. And that was like his end. So now we have this variant. And my thing with like season 1 with Loki was, do we really need to see another redemption arc for Loki when we already got, in my opinion, a really good one in the main movies? But Loki season 2 brought it all together for me. I mean, this Loki just, you know, Loki is a god, right? And they've always kind of not made him as powerful as he can be. And for him to have the power, also have the realization, and I'm not going to try and jump too far ahead with like the ending of it, but the whole coming back to the glorious purpose thing. I mean, I was just like, this is what I want to see. This is what I want to see.
my I think my one and only complaint is like the McDonald's commercial in the middle of the like, this food's really great. We should take this to go because it's McDonald's. And I'm like,
How much did they pay you to do that?
right. And listen, again, like, get your hustle on. I get it. I just thought it was like a little macadamia with like but that's just a minor complaint. But no, that's a great point. I do feel like, you know, it could have been such a waste, like you said, just do another redemption arc. Like, what was some of your like favorite moments? Like, what was some of your like standout, like, you know, getting up off the seat and being like, fuck yeah. You know.
Oh gosh, I felt like there was so many. Okay, so in, I forget which episode it was, but one of the episodes that I was like, ooh, Marvel is going there. Okay. It was the episode where they kept using the box to shrink. And at first, Loki toying with that one guy, I forget his name now, but he's kind of like shrinking it more. And he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. You know, it kept going like more and more. And I was like, this is a little okay. But then when they show, I think was it Ravonna and her actually smushing that's her, to me. Maybe that's not something necessarily to cheer about, but I like that Marvel actually did that and kind of wasn't afraid to do something that was a little darker than they're usually known for. That was a scene that really stood out to me. And then of course another scene obviously was what, episode 4, where Victor Timely goes out and just gets like turned into shredded cheese, and you're like, oh my god, what is happening? That was one. I like that Loki used his shadow powers. I mean, it was something very quick that we saw, but again, just like these little things of Loki showing that he has more abilities than you've seen in the past. And then, of course, the last episode, the final scene was just, I don't know if you want to talk about it. I don't want to like take it away or anything, but that was just like mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe they did that. That's an sorry, my dog just started barking. But that was mind-blowing to me. I thought that was very powerful. And as you were saying before, I'm okay if this is just 2 seasons. I don't necessarily want a 3rd season. I think we don't need that. The one thing I would say is I need at some point in the movies for Thor to know how powerful his brother is and what his brother is doing right now, because I feel like that can't be glossed over. Like, do you mind if I like just like spoil it? I guess we should have been like spoilers.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so we'll put it in the we'll try to get some timestamps, but if you don't want spoilers, maybe skip ahead 5 minutes. So I'll let you take it away.
Okay. So with Loki essentially replacing He Who Remains and now becoming the people were online were kind of saying instead of the god of mischief, now he's the god of stories.
Mm,
And I loved that scene of him just taking all of the timelines and just sitting down. Like Loki finally got his throne, Loki
mm,
finally got his glorious purpose, and he turned all of the timelines into, and I'm going to butcher this, Yeekstrill, the tree of life from Norse mythology. Like when they turned it around and it was the tree,
mm.
I was like, that's so dope. And then I saw someone online go, this is why the time stone is green. And I'm like, I know they didn't think that far back, but that
Wow.
is so crazy to think about.
That kind of blew my mind. Like that kind of broke my mind a little bit. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that scene, obviously the finale just blew my mind. And I need Thor at some point to know that his brother is literally the person who's holding all the timelines
Time
together.
together. Yeah, and to that point, I think it will be really interesting if this is a stepping stone to a bigger kind of storyline with Thor and Loki, and you know hopefully this doesn't mean that that's all we see of Loki for a while, since that's kind of his designated sort of job. I
Right.
mean, I know there's probably 1,000 creative ways you could write him back into, the story, but no, yeah, I feel like that would be really interesting. That would make for a really good moment to really kind of cement Thor and Loki's bond. Um, but oh, I, there's a fun kind of moment that was like, it had to be like a Jurassic Park reference. Like my husband was even turned to me and was like when she's like instead of
Yes,
like
yes. Oh my God.
I'm
Did you, by the way, okay, there's so many things that are popping in my head. What did you think about Miss Minutes having this really kind of crazy crush on He Who Remains?
um yeah, I just remember like my husband being like, he's gonna fuck that clock.
When she was like walking back into the mannequin and she's like,
Yeah.
why didn't you ever give me
Give
a
me
body? And I'm like,
a oh my god.
oh.
Um yeah, I it kind of made me want a Miss Minute spinoff. That could be really interesting. But yeah, her story arc, if you will, was pretty wild and also very sad. Like it
Yes.
just sounded like she all she wanted to do was just, be with he who remains and um knock boots apparently. But yeah, I that was I'm glad you brought that up because that was it felt like a fever dream. I'm glad that like somebody else witnessed it with me. So I was like, I don't smell toast. I think I'm fine.
Well, the whole thing where I was like, there's this like weird love triangle between He Who Remains, Ravonna, and Miss Minutes. And I thought that was very interesting. I mean, I guess you can say that it kind of in the end ended up not really going anywhere, but it was still this interesting backstory and look into them. Um what did you think also by the inclusion of Victor Timely? Because at the end of Quantumanium is what leads into Loki season 2 with Loki and Mobius seeing Victor Timely and Loki kind of saying how horrifying He Who Remains is. But Victor Timely ended up being a Kang variant who really didn't seem like he had any sort of nefarious motivation. He did seem like he was on their side until, the whole entire time.
Yeah, I really like that. I love that detail. I was really excited when I saw that he was in this. I was really hoping they were going to needle rip him as a surprise like foil. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. Um, I think that they again were really smart not to mess with that formula because I do like this idea of just a really sweet, Kang variant that just wants to do science and like be super nerdy. And I love, I mean, every time like Obi and Timely were like fanboying over each other, I my God, I
It
just
was
love
it was the epitome of the stepbrothers. Like, did we just become best friends? Yep.
it. Yeah,
And Obi, by the way, such a phenomenal addition to
yeah.
this freaking show. I mean, he was so amazing, so adorable. And I love that when Loki was trying to get the band back together, that he was really the one who, there was no question. He wasn't like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, okay, cool. And I'll like get on everything
Yeah.
now. And I'm like, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I love that immediately he's like, yes, I'm in. Um, no real follow-up questions. Like
Yeah.
it was such a fun needle rip. Yeah, I just feel like this was such a fun season, and I kind of want this to rejuvenate the film series too. And it's such a, I mean, it's such a we're in such a weird place with just comic book movies to begin with.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it had this, it was like it kind of felt like from both studios where they could put out anything and
Mhm.
they were like, it's just the money faucet, right? It's just like we're gonna put out anything and y'all are gonna lap it up. And that is the very harsh reality of no, you know, it's gotta, I don't know. I feel like, and this is something that will tie back into Loki, and I'm very curious what you think of this, but like, I love this kind of trend of taking indie filmmakers who are only kind of used to maybe working with a couple $1 million at max and like giving them the reins for these like big projects. Justin Benson and Aaron, God, was it Moorhead, or did I just make a really filthy joke? And I'm sorry. I don't know,
But
I'm looking. But I thought I had that pulled up. I'm sorry. But anyways, like, they did these really amazing movies, like Something in the Dirt. I wanted to mention really quick because a lot of that imagery from the last episode, in particular with like the going to the loom and it being very ethereal, and the color scheme kind of felt very in line with some of the other stuff that they've done. So, what do you think about these like indie directors that are like getting these like really big projects? Like I know like Adam Wingard was a pretty big indie horror director, and now he got hooked up with Warner Brothers for some really big projects. I don't know. I think that's really cool. What do you think about that?
yeah, no, I love that. Like, my main thing is Chloe Zhao,
Mm,
who really was an indie filmmaker. I mean, I know obviously she won an Oscar for Nomadland, I believe, but she really didn't have a huge resume prior to being brought into the Eternals. And now I know that Eternals is kind of a movie that not everyone likes. I personally loved it, and I love the idea of bringing in someone who, as you said, is only used to working with a smaller budget and then going, here is a bigger playground for you to enjoy. I think that that brings a better level in. I mean, I'm not trying to speak ill of anyone, but sometimes you get directors who maybe are more used to blockbusters and they go in with a certain mentality, whereas you have indie filmmakers who, they are just really doing this for the love of it. And so they come up with these amazing stories. I mean, if this is what we get, the quality we get, then I'm all for it. Bring more smaller people in to these projects, because you could tell that the people behind Loki season 2, they did their research.
mm.
Again, this is obviously it's different because it's Marvel, but it's all based on Norse mythology. Again, that little detail of turning all of the timelines into the uh you know why can't I think of the tree of,
Great life.
the unit. Yeah, I love that. And it's also a very nice nod back to the first Thor movie, because Thor explains that to Jane when they first meet. So I love little things like that. I think that if Marvel is trying to sit there and go, okay, what do we do? Because we don't have the Russo brothers anymore. We don't have James Gunn anymore. It seems like they're not going to have Taika Waititi anymore. If you're looking for people to bring in people, because that's what Marvel was, right? Marvel was all about, let's bring in no names. Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston were completely no names when they first came into Thor. Bring in people who no one knows and let them have fun.
Yeah, and so I did check. It is Aaron Moorhead, so
Okay.
I'm not being filthy. That is his real name. No, listen, I could never like tell if I'm like if it's just like I have a deranged, dirty mind, or if it's like that's the real thing.
Yeah.
Um, but no, that's such an excellent point, and I think, yeah, I think if like, and the same with the DC, if you're gonna save these movies, you need a big shakeup. You need fresh like visions. You need fresh writers. They get. I think it's like we're in such a weird place because it's like we're stuck with this formula that like worked until it didn't.
Yeah.
And I know that's maybe an oversimplification, but I mean, really, you can't keep doing what you're doing and expect the same results. Like that's just not. Times change, attitudes change, trends change. Even more rapidly than probably it did maybe 10, even just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, because I think that's what's so fascinating is like this year, um and probably the same for last year, was like the biggest smash hit movies were mostly low budget horror movies that did
Yeah.
really well. I mean, obviously this year the exception is like Barbie, that was like a massive hit, and I also thought it was really awesome. And Mario Brothers, which again, those are like huge IPs, but um, I think what was floating a lot of these studios to be able to make some of those movies with the budget they did was like indie horror movies. So I feel like you need to poach some of these indie horror directors, and I think I say horror because I feel like they're the kind of people that can maybe take you into places that are a little bit weirder or darker,
Yeah.
and not just very kind of sterile. And I mean, look at James Gunn. He's a perfect example. I mean, he started out doing like trauma movies, which aren't necessarily exclusively horror, but they're in that kind of um grimy, grindhousey sort of thing. And like it's wild how huge he is now. It was so funny. I was thinking about when like Slither first came out.
Yeah.
Um and like I don't know how I got his email, but I emailed James Gunn. He like replied. And to think about that is freaking insane. I emailed him because I used to buy movie props, like screen use props.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hobby, and really weirdly not an expensive one. It's just like like right place, right time. I have some stuff from some of the Saw movies, but I had some stuff from like Slither, and I had a question about one of the props. And again, I can't recall how I got his email, but like less than a week later, and I'm like, shit, that would never happen now. But like, I don't know. I like good on him. I think that's awesome. I love anybody that can work in the trenches with Lloyd Kaufman and really like kick ass. But yeah, again, like, but like I think to both of our points, it's like you need that like shakeup.
You need something different. I mean, look at how well The Boys is received. Gen
Mhm.
V did very well. People are really excited for The Boys season 4, myself included. Um, Peacemaker. Peacemaker was a phenomenal series, and like who knew that something like that would be so well received, because it's different. And I think that is what people are looking for. I don't know if you saw, we're getting a new Daredevil series, which but they said that they had to go back to the drawing board because they had filmed some episodes, but then they go, you know what, this isn't really working. We don't know if we want to go in this direction. Let's just rewrite everything. And some people were getting upset. I'm okay with this because I'm like, they actually had the foresight to realize maybe like halfway or maybe like 1/3 way in, go, you know what, we don't like where this is going. Let's redo this. I'd rather that than them just go, oh, we're on the path. Let's just put something out. Put thought into it. And I think that's another thing, like, not to get on a whole tangent, but there is a little bit of a saturation with Marvel, with the movies, with the TV shows. Things I think also were one way because we had to wait a while. We had like maybe 1 or 2 movies a year, whereas now it's like 3 movies, 4 movies, 1,000 different shows. I think the quality can't maintain itself if it's being stretched that thin. So do something new, take your time. This is Marvel. Marvel can get back up on its feet. It's not all bad. I really think that phase 4 wasn't as terrible as everyone thinks it was. People forget that phase 2 wasn't that great with Thor, The Dark World, Iron Man 3. I didn't like Age of Ultron. I know Dom loves it. It's like his favorite Marvel movie, but phase 2 wasn't like the strongest, but we got through it. So we can get through this. Loki season 2 was a great example that Marvel's still here. They still know what they're doing. I loved it. And I wanted to talk really briefly about you mentioned also some of the cinematography was just so amazing in this show. That one shot at the end of the series where Mobius goes and looks at his children, and it's just that scene and it's quiet. I like that. There was something really nice about that. And this is what I'm saying. Like, there could be cinema to these Marvel IPs. I mean, that was a beautiful shot that if it was in anything else, people would go, oh, that was really good.
Yeah. So. No, and that's an excellent point. Because it's like, folding into what I was saying is like, you take these directors that are not really action based, or I mean, even and that's not to say that's a bad thing, but like, they cut their teeth on things that were maybe like a little bit more like esoteric or a little bit more like cerebral. And that's why I think like, hiring Justin and Aaron to, helm some of these episodes was amazing, because I feel like their stuff is so weird and out there. Like I get them being in the Marvel, universe. Like I know I keep mentioning something in the dirt, which it's such a fantastic movie, and I got to interview them for that. But like that also kind of deals with these like cosmic, weird, ethereal kind of things. But again, it had that emotional drive that kind of centered and balanced all of that weirdness. Like it wasn't just weird to be weird, and neither was Loki.
Yeah. I also like that. I think I mentioned this before, but that Loki was more focused on Loki, honestly. I think another one of my biggest complaints about Loki season 1 was that it was less Loki. I get it. We all love Owen Wilson as Mobius, myself included, but it focused a little too much on him at sometimes. It focused a lot on Sylvie, and it's like, I don't care that Sylvie is a Loki variant. She's not Tom Hiddleston Loki. And then even like the episode in season 1 where they're showing old Loki being so powerful, and they're like, Loki's so powerful. I'm like, I don't care about this Loki. I care about Tom Hiddleston's Loki. I want the focus to be on him. That's why we love Loki. And so this season felt like they put Loki on the forefront again, while still giving good amount of screen time to the other characters. I didn't feel like we lost out on Mobius. I absolutely loved him being so diehard for jet skis. It made me want to jet ski. I mean, that scene where he's like doing his own like commercial was amazing.
And the guy didn't even want that. Oh my God.
He just wanted the donuts. I love that.
I mean, same.
Giving screen time to Obi was great. Again, Victor Timely. I mean, that was a great character, a great iteration of Kang. the one scene where I love where he's enjoying the hot chocolate to the one TVA worker, and then the TVA worker gets pruned. Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, I think this season had it all. I think it was funny without being overly quippy. I feel like if there is a legit argument with Marvel, it is that they do tend to undercut their, serious moments with some like humor. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like you have to pick and choose your moments when you do that. But I feel like that we didn't have that. Like you were saying, that like Death by Cube was really fucked up because like you didn't see it but you could hear it.
Yeah, and that made it worse. To hear the screams made it worse, and to know that all the like the one old woman who was like, I will die for this, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna die. And that was pretty dark. I don't know, that just took me back. So yeah, I really like this season a lot. I thought Tom Hiddleston did a great job in it. I thought everything was amazing. I would definitely rewatch it. As I said, I don't need a third season, but that doesn't mean I don't want to see these characters again.
Mhm.
Throw Mobius would go so well with, oh my god, what's his name? Randall Park's character.
Ooh, yeah, I can see that.
Put them together in an interaction, hilarious. Bring back Miss Minutes and Ravonna for something.
Yeah.
And then obviously, again, I'm gonna die on this hill, let Thor know that his brother is here. So
Yeah.
we don't need to lose out on these characters. I just don't know if necessarily we need another season, because I don't want them to kind of undo that beautiful
Yeah.
ending. Also, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
So, in the last episode, Loki kept redoing everything, which I thought was funny, where he was like, again. Where have we seen that? Haven't we gotten something like that before in Marvel, or am I just thinking of something else?
I don't know. I mean, so I've seen, I feel like every single Marvel thing, but it's been a while. Like I feel like I could kind of use, like, I don't know if like maybe the winter time's a good thing to just go through everything again, because I
Mhm.
feel like there's literally been some movies that I haven't seen since they came out.
Yeah.
Just
No,
alone.
that's fair. That's so fair.
But yeah, no, it's possible that that was a reference. And
I was just
yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just trying to say, I was like, how have we dealt with that with like Ant-Man before? Did that happen in Endgame? I can't remember. I know that there's a episode of Supernatural that did something very
Oh,
similar,
right. Yeah.
but I was just trying to sit there like, am I confusing with Supernatural, or did I see it in Marvel? I don't know, but I didn't know if you knew it.
Oh yeah. It didn't ring a bell, but that doesn't mean that it's not. It's and y'all chime in the comments and
I was gonna
let
say,
us.
let me know.
Yeah. Um yeah, no, I think like, gosh, if I had some like final thoughts on this, I feel like, it's such a perfect contained 2-season series. Um and yeah, again, to your point, I yeah, as much as I love these characters, like you said, I would rather see like a really well done spinoff that maybe builds on this a little bit, but not
Mhm.
necessarily like I want to just keep that in time as like a, you know, beautiful just 2 seasons. And yeah. So what would you say is like some final thoughts, or anything, maybe anything you haven't brought up that you wanted to?
Um, my final thoughts are, again, I enjoyed it. I need this sort of more, like, as I said, like tighter storytelling in these series. At first it feels like, ooh, only 6 episodes, but I thought that was good. We had no filler really. It knew what it wanted to do from episode 1 and just did it. Um my final thoughts really are just, it made me really excited for Marvel again. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to admit that, as again, as someone who is a huge Marvel fan, I had been feeling the fatigue. I just, and it's gonna sound bad, I just watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for the first time like a week ago.
Mm.
I just don't get to the theaters anymore. And like now, again, having that fatigue, I was like, I don't even know if I'm ready for it. Watching that movie and watching the Loki series, it's like, yeah, I still love Marvel. I'm still in this. So I'm excited for whatever comes next. I know that the Marvels is out. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be doing quite well in the box office, but I kind of expected that. People wanted to hate on Captain Marvel, the first movie, so I'm like, Dom did a good review of it, and
Yeah.
it's like it's just entertaining. Just go and be entertained. But with the Loki series, I really have no complaints at all. If I had to say one thing, and this is just my general complaint for Loki throughout Marvel, why do they not give us blue Loki? They did it once in the first movie and never did it again. And it just makes me very sad. I just want to see him blue again for some reason. But besides that, no real complaints. It does make me wonder, and I don't know if you've been seeing the reports. I think Kanan put it on our Twitter page and everything, that apparently there's rumors, and we don't have to get like so into this. I just wanted to know your like brief thoughts, that there's a possibility that Marvel is shifting away from Kang and maybe going to shift towards like Doctor Doom as the big bad, because
Mm.
even in this show alone, Loki has now replaced Kang as He Who Remains.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering now, what does that mean for this character?
That's, yeah, no, I think that's a really cool idea. I mean, I'm somebody that like I want to see a really excellent Doctor Doom. Like, fucking please give it to me. Like, I know that's I'm just like, I know I'm speaking for a lot of other people that are also like, just give us a really good
Doctor
um
Doom.
yeah, Doctor Doom, a really great fucking Fantastic Four, like something we can be proud of, like something that's not just a placeholder for y'all to keep the right.
You're not, you didn't like the original. You're not into Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Come on.
Oh, I thought you meant the original, like the Roger Corman one, where
Oh, I'm
now we're
talking.
really going back. No, I think those are fun. I think those
I'm
are,
just teasing, by the way.
yeah, but I feel like I even kind of like the first one. But like it is charming to kind of see stuff back then with superhero stuff and stuff now. But yeah, I love that idea though. I think like said, I mean, I hope that they do it methodically. Like I hope they don't just throw out Doctor Doom. I hope there's maybe a little preamble. What do you think about that? Like not just right away introducing him, but just sort of like echoes of like teasing him, and then like holy shit, he's fucking here, and I feel like that's gonna get everybody amped.
I obviously want anything that's done to not be just thrown out there. I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be built up. It is going to be interesting because since the end of Endgame, it does seem that we were gearing up more towards Kang as the main villain, but I understand that maybe Marvel is trying to be cautious considering everything that's going on with the actor
Yeah.
outside of the movies. So they'll have to then, and it's not like it's been that long. It's only been what, like a couple of years, a few movies here and there. So it's not like they really have to start from scratch and they're like, oh shit, we've been gearing up for Kang. Now we got to gear up for Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
I think that not that much time has passed that they can still course correct and do that. But as you said, I want it to be well thought out. My thing has always been, I am not a comic book reader. My introduction to these characters has been the movie universe,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously what I look up on the side. So I have no stake in whether it's Kang or Doctor Doom, but I know people really like Doctor Doom. You seemed very excited for Doctor
Yeah.
Doom, so I
Um,
think that people would be really pumped if that is the main villain, and if you do it correctly. We're getting a Fantastic Four movie. You're introducing the Fantastic Four into Marvel.
yeah.
Introducing Doctor Doom would probably be a no-brainer.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know. I mean, it's tempting to just have him right away as the big bad, but like again, like they did something similar with Thanos. Like he was sort of built up. He wasn't like right away the
No.
main, bad guy. So I feel like if they were gonna try to replicate a little bit of that formula, I think that would be the really smart way to go. And plus, I think like just we are all just so excited for like a really good Fantastic Four movie that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we'll, I mean, we'll show up to see it no matter
Yeah.
what, probably. But like, just have it be good and just have it be thoughtful. Like, just I think play the long game a little bit, like because we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna come back if you make it really good. I mean, start with maybe like a more ancillary villain, but really just sort of tease Doctor Doom, and we'll get there. I mean, don't make us wait too long, but like, ooh, just that anticipation, and when he's finally there, oh, it's gonna be so
I mean,
good.
remember we waited 10 years really for Thanos. Like granted, we got Thanos sprinkled in. If you remember, he was at the end of the first Avengers. And then he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 for a brief time. And I believe they did show him what at Age of Ultron at the end or something. I think that's when he was like, fine, I'll do it myself or something like that. But we had to wait 10 years before we fully got him. And that was such a phenomenal buildup. I don't know if Marvel has it in them to wait 10 years again. I think they're like, oh, I don't know if we could do that. I don't know if people will be that patient. But give us a few years, sprinkle it in, have you see his like name somewhere or something, have some people talk about him, but don't really have him in. Like, let us build up to it again.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, that's probably not what's going to happen, but I don't know. You never know. I mean, again, I think I feel confident when, and again, Guardians 3 was awesome. This season of Loki was awesome. So we know that they can do things that are a little bit more cerebral and thought out, and so like fingers crossed. But yeah, Loki 2 season 2 awesome. I'm really excited for, yeah, I mean, like as you were saying, it's got me kind of pumped again. Like I'm trying, like I'm so badly want to get pumped back up for like for DC too, because
I,
I know, like
I know it's so
uh
hard.
I wanted to like Blue Beetle so much, and it wasn't bad. It was just fine, but it was like it's not one of those movies like you were saying, like where we were like, shit, this is why we like these characters. This is why we love this playing in this sandbox. And like it has been a little while. I think maybe the last like great DC movie was probably the Batman, or um the Joker movie. Like those I think were like the last, yeah.
Really
But
good. And
yeah,
Peacemaker series, like for
yeah.
me, was just, why is this so good? Just give me this. I will be more than happy. But yeah, DC, and like not to go on the DC bashing train, because I grew up watching Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I got Batman right there. So, it's not that I hate DC. I just need better from DC. But
Mhm.
hopefully with James Gunn, I mean, helming now the new worlds in DC will
Yeah.
actually get a nice world going on.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really, it's going to be really interesting to see how both of these studios kind of pivot now that they well and thoroughly know like they can't just put out anything and everything's going to make billions of dollars. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be like, get creative. I think the biggest thing is just like, do you really need a $500 million movie? Like,
It's so much money that they pump into these movies now, and for not for nothing, the CGI to really not look that
not
great.
that
I'm
good.
like, what
Yeah.
is going on?
So yeah, I do feel like just to put a sort of bow on this video, it
Yeah,
will be interesting to kind of see how things get course corrected. Fingers crossed, because we love these characters. We want to see like the best versions of these characters. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that is our review, slash TED Talk on the state of comic book movies. But this was so much fun. Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
love recording with you. It was so fun to meet you at Comic
Oh
Con.
my God, that was so great. I mean, and I've been watching all the interviews that you did at Comic-Con. You got to speak with Robert Kirkman for Invincible season
I
2, I
know.
believe,
Oh my
correct?
gosh. Yep.
That was phenomenal. And again, that D. Snyder interview, I was just,
Yeah.
so cool.
And just the nicest person. So it was funny with that interview. Like I didn't know that I was gonna get like a photo op, but the guy. So I actually knew the guy that was kind of running the PR for that. Like when I first got up to the area where he was gonna be at, he's like,
Mhm.
"Hey, I know you, right?" And I'm like, "What did I do?" Because I'm always like shit. Like it's not that I'm a bad person, but I'm always like it's like a negative thing. That's
Mhm.
my default. Um, so he's like, yeah, he's like, well, he's like, um, I probably won't say his name, but he's like, he was one of my PR contacts for home video stuff,
Mm.
and I was like, holy shit, like that was so cool. So, when we were done, first of all, before I had to leave the presence of D. Snyder, I had to say, like, I really like Strangeland. I don't care what anybody like. I don't care what anybody says. That's such a fun movie. So he was like, oh, thank you. And then, this guy that was running PR was like, hey, do you want a photo op? And I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Um, because I just didn't assume, like, I know, like, he had other things to do. I think he had maybe two or three other interviews. So I felt lucky enough just to get like a one-on-one. But like, so nice and so awesome. Like, if y'all ever get a chance to meet D. Snyder at a signing or something, don't stalk him. But at an official thing, he's he's really a sweet person. Like it's intimidating, but like I met him a while back at a Monster Mania con, so I knew like he was really sweet and nice to fans. I figured that hadn't changed, so I wasn't too like psyched out. But yeah, that whole time was fun. I still think we should do like a breakdown of our Comic Con time.
I think that would be amazing. Name the place and time for us to,
All right.
pod for that.
That's a little teaser. So I'll fold that into you want to be subscribed to
Yes.
Geek Vibes, and please, again, all the likes, comments, all that stuff really helps. Chime in, let us know what you think of Loki season 2. What's something that you want us to cover or do some more videos on. And as always, thank you for hanging out with us.